So many of you right now have a shutter priority splash based picture. This happens to be one, and this one is in black and white. So it is really important that you guys are taking the time to adjust your values to make sure that you are matching them with what you would like to produce as a finished product here, okay? So this one happens to be in black and white. Yours may be in full color. You may have enhanced the color. You may go home today and retake some of these pictures and decide you wanted something with a different kind of background, or bring in that item and retake some of those pictures here. So I asked my audience in here who would be willing to have me photograph them, and one of my lovelies so graciously allowed me to photograph her. And I just want to show you a tool, because what we're going to end up with is I want to end up with a person or an animal or people cut out. And you will notice here what I did was I went out to the hallway and I tried to get her against as plain of a background as possible, but also a background that would contrast with her, because that'll make this process immensely easier. So if she was wearing a white shirt and I put her against a white backdrop, it would be awful for this process. And basically what we're going to do, 1, 2, 3, 4 tools down. If you click and hold, you're going to get 2 options in here. So I want to make sure you realize one of them is what we're going to be using, and that's called a quick selection tool, okay? So that quick select tool, you can see you've got a few options that change up here. You also have a size option for it. The larger the size, the more it picks at one time, but it's also less picky. So you might, if you make this too big, you might start to grab a lot more than what you intended on. So definitely keep that in mind. I'm going to deselect by saying select, deselect, or Control D. So you can choose that. I will use a lot of keyboard shortcuts, so you won't see this pop up. If it helps, grab a Post-it note from my desk, write down these keyboard shortcuts for yourself. It's a really helpful thing for you to use during the project. Okay, so I'm going to deselect, and I'm going to make this smaller. I'm going to make it no larger than the size of her arm, and actually maybe a little bit smaller. You can see right now it's on 80. It's on Select Plus at this point in time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, and it's almost like I'm driving around the figure, okay? So I'm going to click and I'm going to drag it. Every so often I'm going to let go of that click, because what that does is it locks in that motion. It locks in what we had just done. So in case I accidentally go outside here and get that, I can go back to my history, go back up one step, and it's not like I'm going to get rid of everything I did. Okay? So that's a really good thing. Don't forget, Control Z also undoes your last step. Control Z once, Control Z again. Again, I'm going to drive around the figure. I'm going to grab those various aspects of the figure. And again, notice how simple this is. If it's a really fussy background, it's not going to go this easily. So that's why you're going to want to take some fresh pictures. Okay? Now, there's a couple areas that I missed, and there's a couple areas that don't look so good. First of all, there's the hair. I grabbed that, but it grabbed out here, and I didn't even realize it. And it grabbed this black bar, and I didn't even realize it. But we can fix that. We're going to go up top to the Select Minus. So when you select minus something, you can see inside that little icon becomes a minus. Now it's a plus. So when you select minus, you drive around the stuff you want to take out. So I want to remove that. I can also zoom, Control plus. I can zoom in, and I can select minus and make sure, let's say I find that like that piece of hair right there, it's unnecessary. I don't need that. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to exclude it. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to scroll very closely. I can make this smaller. Notice I'm not over here making it smaller. Somehow I'm magically doing that. Once again, it's the bracket keys on your keyboard. If you look kind of above your Enter key, you'll see bracket keys. They almost look like parentheses, but squared off on the end. The left one makes it smaller. The right one makes it bigger. So again, this makes it very picky when it's really tiny. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to get really close to that hand, and I'm going to get rid of that space in there. If I wanted to, I can zoom in really far. Sorry, Belen. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to notice all those things that I just missed that I would never have noticed unless I zoomed in. So I'm going to minus, I'm going to get really close to that sleeve. And again, depending on how the hands are, oops, let me zoom back out a little bit. There we go. Depending on how the hands are, you may find that you're going to want to remove the little space from between the fingers. If it doesn't show up your finished work, you should be okay. Like, I didn't get that picky on my sample, and it still looked really good. But if your fingers are very widespread, like right there, see, it's probably going to look stranger if I do that than it would be to just leave that part out and just ignore it. And then I can fix it in my finished work if necessary. Okay? So I'm going to zoom back out, double click on the hand tool, or Control minus, or Control 0. So those are three things that you can use. So I've got the figure. What I want to do is I want to copy that onto its own layer now. And to do that, simple Control J. Control J, if nothing is selected, if there's no selection, we call these crawling ants. If there are no crawling ants on your screen, Control J will copy the whole layer. But if there's a selection on there and I Control J, you can see the only thing it picks is what was selected. So this is where I can zoom in a little bit and I can fix up some of these edges. I can either completely undo that, say, man, I was off the mark, and go back here and fix it up. Or, if it's just a matter of erasing a little bit, I can go onto my layer that I just Control J'd, and I can hide that guy. So I've hid that. I've hidden that, sorry. And I'm going to go ahead and I did a terrible job here. You can see I totally missed the pattern on the edge of her pants. I would need to clean up her boot edge because you can see that they are way, way, way wonky looking. They've got all kinds of ruffly looks on the edge. So you're going to want to make sure that you do that cleaning up process. And then this one's a little bit better. So this is the one that I did earlier for the demo. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to copy that over to our other document. Okay? So if I'm copying that over, I've got my document with my person. And then I've got that water document that you guys just were taking earlier this week on shutter priority, TV mode, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this layer over there, and you're going to have them start to interact. That's why I said you're going to get creative as you're photographing. So I'm going to go to this layer, make sure it's active. We're going to right-click, and then we're going to duplicate that layer. And when you duplicate that layer, it's going to ask you something. So you want to pay attention to this. This is what's really important. Ignore that. You don't need to worry about that one. But this is your destination. This is like getting on an airplane and selecting where you're ending up. You don't just walk on an airplane and pray and hope that you're going to end up maybe where you want to end up. No, this is where I want my picture to end up. Mine happens to be untitled still. I'm going to tell it Untitled 1. I wanted to put it there. It looks like nothing happened. But when you come over here to Untitled 1, there she is. Look at how gorgeous she is. Now, she is way, way, way too big for this kind of a scene. We need to make her smaller. So I'm going to Control minus so I can see more. And then I'm going to put her into transform mode. And I need to make her smaller by Edit, Free Transform, or Control T. You can see that's the box. I'm going to hold the Shift key. Remember, if I don't hold the Shift key, I'm going to either make her look like that or like she's, you know, had a lot of Thanksgiving dinners. So we want to hold that Shift key to make her smaller. Notice she's off the screen. I'm good. I'm going to pull her up there and make her smaller. Let's say I decide that's good. That's about how big I want her. I'll put her right there and I'm going to zoom back in. I press the Enter key, by the way. I would have to nibble away a little bit with that eraser. The eraser is located right there, so you can see the eraser tool. I could just nibble away a little bit to get rid of that little extra that I missed on there. No problem. You can do that on your own, okay? But now at this stage, she's in color, background's in black and white. So I have to decide, do I really like the way that that looks? So again, now's the time to adjust. Go back to those skills you guys learned on your editing. I'm going to go ahead, image adjust my hue saturation, and I'm going to desaturate. But now she looks really gray. She looks kind of blah. So after I desaturate, I'm going to go back. Again, you guys should know these by now. These are definite easy editing tools. I'm going to go back to my levels, Control L, and I'm going to pop those levels up so that I can get her looking a little bit more like she matches with that scene. I might darken a little bit. I don't necessarily think, maybe I should move that gray just a little bit. And there we go. Now, how can I get creative with her? You got to think about it. You know, maybe you're having a pool party with you and your best friends. Maybe you're having a dog splash party inside here. I could come back to this eraser. Let me make that eraser bigger. Again, right bracket to make it bigger, left bracket to make it smaller. I can come in and I could lose part of her, and now it looks like she's sinking down in the little funnel. Okay? So, again, I'm going to zoom back out. I have her up top, right there. She's jumping off. You know, doing a little belly flop there. I even took, and some of my more advanced students, if this is easy for you, call me over. I want to show you how to warp an image. Because she went from here to here. You notice now, again, I did not do the best job. I will show you how to do a much better job. I was just being silly with it this morning. How to bend that knee a little bit more appropriately. But again, you could retake that picture. You can make something look really fantastic and really have it show up awesome. Okay, you do a really cool job. Make it fun. I think that's one of the biggest things that I want you to do is I want it to be clean, but I also want you to have fun with it. Okay, so one more thing I wanted to mention about your eraser tool is that just like any other tool, if you go up to the top, there are ways that you can change how much and how it erases. So you've got a solid edge right here. You can see the hardness level is all the way at 100%. That would be like cutting a hole, like a hole in Swiss cheese. Okay? If I soften that, the edge becomes much more feathered. Think like an ombre where you're fading one color to the next. The edges become much more subtle and very gentle. That's what I used over here, so it didn't look like I just cut her in half. It looks like she's sinking in that water. Okay? So again, right now, you're going to be kind of playing around with the idea. You can use a stock image of whatever you might find on Google for your practice. But I want this thing to be entirely you. I want it from soup to nuts. If you're going to go home and photograph, you know, every single pet that you have in your house, if you want to photograph you and you're going to put yourself over and over doing different things inside here, if you're going to photograph you and your friends, you and your family, if you don't want to use you at all, you want to photograph, you know, all the kids in your family, you can do that. Just get them in different poses against a solid background so that you can learn how to manipulate these images and try to make them look seamless. Try to make them look like they're coming together and interacting with those great splashes that you guys caught. Okay? So that is our job for today. I'm going to come around and take